Hey, it's Jason here with Lone Star Watch Company, and I thought I would take a couple of minutes and kind of go through about 50 years of Rolex Datejust history. It's really common that I get a ton of questions about the difference between Datejusts. When people are comparing models, a lot of times they'll ask me, hey, I see two similar models, what's the price difference between them? And why is the cost difference so big between what are very similar looking watches? So we're actually starting about 50 years ago with the 4-digit Datejust, the 1601. And in my opinion, this is really the kind of the start of the modern Rolex Datejust. These are what's called a non-quick set. So 4-digit model Rolexes like 1601, 1603 are non-quick set, which means you can't change the date independently from the time. So if you want to change a date, you got to roll the hands over and over and over and over again to basically get the date flipped. So it's a little bit of a pain to set, especially if you're a day after the date you wanted, but still beautiful watches. These used acrylic crystals, so they're plastic crystals, and they're 14 karat gold fluted bezels and 14 karat gold bracelets, which what's called a folded clasp, the old style bracelets on this one. Now from here, they moved to the 5-digit Rolexes, like this one, which is a 16013. If you ever want to know if a watch is quick set or non-quick set, 4 digits are non-quick set, 5 digits and up are quick set. So a 16013 replaced the 1601. The advantage of these, the big one being that these are quick set models, so you can change the date independently from the time. So these are very easy and very quick to set. Still have the plastic crystal. One call out that I think is very cool that doesn't get a lot of attention are the Rolex Oysterquartz models. So these were released around the same time. The 1601s were 60s and 70s models. The 16013s were released in the late 70s, the same with the 17013s. So Rolex, as you can see there, does make a battery-powered watch, and you can see it's actually ticking. There was a lot of pressure from Japanese and American-made quartz watches at the time, so Rolex kind of jumped on the bandwagon and started making these. They're actually really cool pieces, and it's funny, every time I post one of these, someone always comments, oh, it's fake, it's not real, Rolex doesn't make battery-operated watches. They do, well, they did. Up until about 2003, quartz watches were available from Rolex. So replacing the 16013 model was the 16233 model. The biggest difference being an upgraded movement. So it went from the 3035 movement to the 3135 movement, which was a workhorse movement. They used it for like 25 years in their watches. Submariners, Explorers, Datejust used that same movement. The other big advantage with this is they moved to sapphire crystals. So actual glass crystals on these. They also went to full 18 karat gold. Now with the 16013s, for the first few years they were 14 karat. Later generation 16013s upgraded to 18 karat. All 16233s are 18 karat gold. The other thing that they started doing in 1994 is removing lug holes. So if you can see that there, you can see the old models have the little holes on the side. The new models don't. So if you see a watch listed and it says holes case or no holes case, the no holes case is more desirable. After 1994, Rolex has removed the lug holes from these watches. And these are great. These are some of my favorite watches to sell. They just look fantastic. And they upgraded the 5-digit models to what I call the 6-digit models. So they went from a 16233 to a 116233. Same movement. The big advantage being one is a redesigned case. So even though these are both 36 millimeters, they actually adjusted the taper of the case. They use a thicker case. So this wears bigger on the wrist, the 116233s versus the 16233s. The other thing that they did, and I don't know if I can get this on camera, but the center links on these are hollow links. So they are gold, but they're hollow links. On the 116233s, the center links are solid gold. There's no spacing in there. So these tend to weigh more than the 16233s do and are worth more because of that. But they also introduced the Super Jubilee bracelet. And it's one of the coolest things about a 6-digit Datejust is just the solid straight through bracelet versus the old style stamped metal clasp bracelet. So very in demand for these. Then in around 2009, they released the Datejust II, and these were the first generation of 41 millimeter Datejusts and quickly became some of their most popular models. This is a Wimbledon dial, 41 millimeter, and it is on a oyster bracelet. For Those of you who don't know, this is an Oyster bracelet, this is a Jubilee bracelet. Typically, Jubilee bracelets tend to sell for more than Oyster bracelets do. So the Datejust II 2009, one of the first years that they released the 41 millimeter. Also, they added the new style clasp, which is still used today. So they use the larger buckle on these. The next up, released about 2017, is the newer models, the 126333. You see these 2017, 2018, 2019. This is actually a 2023 model. And the big difference with these is, again, the additional weight, the upgraded movement, and again, they did a redesign to the buckle a little bit. So there's a slight variation to this buckle versus the previous generation ones. But overall, just a beautiful timepiece. And it kind of gives you an idea of the difference in the change that Rolex went through over a 50-year period from 1960 to 2023. But you can still see the similarities and really the design structure of a Rolex Datejust. Thanks.